Welcome back, friends, to the shop. A little bad news this morning. Unlocked the shop and came in and noticed that my cuckoo clock was missing. Looked down the floor and it had fallen off in the middle of the night and got pretty beat up. It is no longer working. Today's video, we're going to see if we can't repair it. Hopefully, what happened here is it fell off, and then this is all made in Germany. The battery compartment and the stem that holds the arms and all of that, and the pendulum swinger and such is all kind of broken loose. Tree fell off, pendulum came off, but it always came off. Even one of the pine cones that simulate the counterweights of the old ones is damaged. I thought we would tear into this and see if we can't fix it. So before we get going, I'll clock these at noon. It's just a press fit on that one. What happened here was these were glued on and they just simply broke loose. So the question is, does this mechanism still work before we get too involved? This swings back and forth. This is the control for the pendulum. It's like we're missing a screw right here. It almost looks like, oh no, there's only one per side. That's all they did, they just put one in. Well, you wouldn't think the Germans would cut a corner like that, would you? Let's put some batteries in it, see if it still goes here. Good news, friends. Look at that. I don't know if you can see that's going to be on the bottom, but it is the pendulum swinging. Let's see, what's going to be the best glue for this? Probably something that's thick. So how critical is the placement of this battery unit with the pendulum down? I'm going to have to drill a new hole here. It looks like it kind of split out on me. That reminds me of a story, this little tiny drill bit, of the one and only time that I actually passed out from pain. And it had to do with a little drill bit just like that. I must have been, I'll bet I was 17 or 18. I had a 1975 Ford Bronco, orange with a white top. I wish I had that today. I was replacing I needed to replace the U-joints on the rear driveline. They were loose, it had a bunch of miles on it. And I was underneath there and I'd taken all the cap bolts off and and I grabbed a hold of it to give it a good shake, because sometimes they corrode and those U-joints will stick there in those seats. And I was reefing on it as hard as I could, and it broke loose, and that drive shaft, as I was pushing with all my strength, that drive shaft crushed my middle finger on my left hand between the frame and that heavy CV constant velocity yoke, pretty heavy deal. And man, hurt, but I shook it off a little bit. Like, okay, it's gonna get better, but it just got worse. I looked and the fingernail had turned all red, and this pressure was building up inside of that. And I remember that's a pretty common crush injury for mechanics. I remember my granddad telling me what to do in a situation when that happened. And what he did was he would take a needle and he would heat it up hot. And it would basically just use it as a kept heating it on a match and use it as a drill bit to drill through that nail to relieve the pressure underneath, because it just gets so painful. You gotta let it out. And so I remembered that, and I thought, well, Granddad's got that little drill press. He had a little tiny Craftsman drill press mounted onto his bench next to his vise, red. I'll never forget it. And he had a little itty bitty tiny drill bit, just like that one, 1/16 of an inch or so. So I chucked that thing up in there, and I thought, all right, I'll just be real careful, and I'll watch it, and I'll just take my time, and I'll just put a tiny bit of pressure on there, and I'll drill through that nail and relieve that pressure. Well, it's just taking forever, and my finger's just getting worse and worse, and I just keep giving it a little bit more pressure, and I was thinking, man, when is this thing ever going to get through there, and a little bit more pressure? Well, you know how drill bits are when they break through. They always push through. I was giving it a little bit more of a tug, and it broke through that nail, and that drill bit went right into my finger, and I just immediately stood up and just went black and passed out. That was absolutely it. I woke up, I don't know, maybe a few minutes later on the concrete floor with the drill still running, but I did relieve the pressure out of my fingernail. There was blood everywhere, but lesson learned on that one. That's a high quality item there. Even though it's plastic, it's nice plastic, and look at that solid brass ferrule. So there are two rotating shafts on this. There's an inner and an outer. The outer, of course, for the hour hand. So they actually kind of work independently. I think what happened is the screw that I used was too far, it was backed in too far, and there wasn't enough of a ledge on there to grasp it, so we'll back that out. But will she cuckoo? That's the question. Well, friends, I think we dodged a bullet with that. I don't believe there's probably too many drops left, if any, in that cuckoo clock, but everything seems to be functioning properly. Several of you were asking about these little deer antlers. What was the story on that? This was the first deer I ever shot with my granddad in 1981. It says 1981 Cody on there, and my granddad made the plaque for me. And my Nana, she used to do that red velour padded over the skull, and it's kind of a hallmark of our family. She always did it that way. A couple of years ago, I was thinking about taking these off here and doing something that was, that was a little bit more modern. I don't know why, for some reason, that I thought, oh, that looks a little, that's kind of a little bit old-fashioned. But goodness, I'm glad I didn't touch it. I just left it alone. 1981. I was 12 years old. My first year carrying a rifle. Shot that little guy with an 8mm Mauser with a cut down stock because I was too little to shoulder a full-size rifle. Oh, it's tough to lose those loved ones. I miss my granddad. I miss him terribly. I miss him every day. I miss my dad. It still hasn't even set in. I think 100% that my dad's gone. I still got his phone number, programmed into my phone. And emails, you know how that is, and you debate whether should I delete that contact or should I just leave it there. And when you think about the fact that you'll never see that caller ID again, from Dad, it's kind of a tough thing. It's a tough thing to lose your father, because I think, when you're growing up, even when you're older and you have your own family, your dad is always the patriarch. He's always there. If you get in a bind, he was always there to call if I had a problem I couldn't solve, and he always had an answer. He was a highly intelligent and resourceful man. And to not have access to that, and I run across that from time to time, a lot actually, where I've done something or we've had some success or some accomplishment, and the first thing I always did was call him and tell him and share that with him. And to not have that anymore is a great loss. It's hard it's just hard. It's just something we all have to go to. I'm not the only one. I know that. Well, I'm glad the cuckoo clock's fixed, but I do have some good news. I have, a couple of years ago, I started kind of tinkering around and getting involved with blacksmithing. Never was really all that good at it, but I have enjoyed it. And I think one of the things that took a lot of the joy out of it, and why I haven't made it a priority for me, is not having a proper forge and not having a proper anvil. I think those two things kind of really come together. And I had a proper forge. I had the wood forge, but it's so much work. It burns so much wood. You almost need an assistant just to keep it going. And when you're learning, it's pretty frustrating when you're losing your heat and your items, and you're trying to keep the wood going, and then I'm trying to make videos of it. It was too big of a job for me, and I just thought I couldn't do it. So I got to thinking about it. I thought, well, what if I got a gas forge? And so I looked around, and they're pretty affordable, and I bought a gas forge online. It should be here probably tomorrow. And I've been looking for a proper anvil, an old German forged, 100-year-old big proper anvil. I've been looking, probably 5 years or so. I'm not seriously, but just watching Craigslist and it came up. The one that my dream anvil, the one that if I could have any anvil, it came up, and it was 4.5 hours north of here. I called the guy, and a really nice guy. He happened to know my old neighbors who I took some blacksmithing classes with, and we agreed on a price. And Jariah's heading up there right now in my truck to go get it. It'll be back here this evening, so I'll share that with you tomorrow. But it's a once-in-a-lifetime anvil. It's probably, we'll cover it when it arrives. Hopefully it arrives safely. But I'm really, really excited for that. So we're going to be kind of getting a layman's or professional homeowner grade blacksmithing section set up right here next to the bench, and Brian's going to come over, my neighbor. He got a forge. His wife bought him a small knife forge for Christmas, and we're going to do some stuff together. And he's got more experience than me, so it'd be nice to have him here to kind of show me a few things, but we'll do that together. But we're going to build a stand. We're going to build the mother of all anvil stands, because this anvil is quite big, and we'll be doing that here next week. So. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. May God bless you and your families. Please keep my family in your prayers. And we'll see you all on the next video.